Yes, welcome into a College Loop Postgame reaction YouTube exclusive. You guys seem to like this, and I think we're going to make this a permanent thing as long as Auburn's playing basketball. Maybe we'll do baseball when we get to postseason or a big weekend series. But right now, we're here to talk about Auburn's first round victory in the NCAA tournament, March Madness over Iowa. Auburn coming in as the 9 seed, Iowa coming in as the 8 seed. Tigers down the Hawkeyes 83-75 in a game where, for all intents and purposes, there was a late surge from Iowa. Obviously, Auburn built a lead up to 17. I think 16 or 17 is what we came up with in that ballpark. And Iowa really stormed back. But the Tigers, when they needed to buckle down, they buckled down and fended off the Hawkeyes and got the job done. They're still dancing. They'll be playing a presumptive Houston, but Houston's got to get their job done and tonight in their matchup with 16 seeded Eastern Kentucky.
Northern Kentucky.
I knew it was a direct.
The Norse.
That's right.
Let's go Vikings.
Northern Kentucky. So we'll know for sure tomorrow if Auburn will be playing Houston or Northern Kentucky. And like I said, presumptively Houston. We're here to talk Auburn, Iowa, though. That's what we're here to talk about. There will be a preview show with Dylan and Daniel tomorrow. I know that they're pumped up to talk more Auburn hoops. Dylan, this is a game, like I said, Iowa storms back, but Auburn just flat out played significantly better than Iowa for, I'll go 36 of the 40 minutes of this game. And this is what this team needs to look like in the tournament. And I'll let you go ahead and provide your immediate reactions. I'm sure you're going to bring up some talking points that we'll trace back on, but that's okay because there's a lot to talk about here. A lot of good, a little bit of bad, but a lot of good. So Tiger fans, you're going to enjoy this episode. Dylan, go right ahead.
Well, when you brought up the playing well at 36 out of 40 minutes, now let's go ahead and preface it with the fact that they ended good. That's not something we're used to seeing when it comes to a game like this. Usually Auburn plays very well throughout the 36 minutes, and the last 4 minutes are hard to watch.
Sure.
The 4 minute period happened somewhere in between the start and the end of the second half. And Auburn
pretty much smack middle.
Exactly. And Auburn found a way to get right back in it with the help of the guy we've been hammering in that this has to be his game, his tournament to lose, really. Johni Broome went off.
Clearly a listener of the College Loop.
Yeah, 19 points, 12 rebounds, and, of course, 5 blocks from Johni Broome. Just absolutely great performance from him, and you can't forget the fact that Wendell Green, 15 points. Jay Will overcame his 3 early fouls, but got 15 points. Zep Jasper started off the game with the 2. Alan Flanagan ended up the game with 10. I mean, when 4 out of the 5 starting lineup for Auburn puts up double digits, it's pretty much all she wrote. And you can't forget the fact that Tre Donaldson put up 11 points on the bench.
I was about to say, the Auburn bench, by my count, Dylan, had 26.
22, 24, yep.
26 of Auburn's 83. And you've been hammering this for weeks, man. I mean, I love you. Sometimes you sound like a broken record here because it's important, right? We have these certain, I guess, college loopisms that we keep hammering in because they're important. And bench points is certainly one of them. This is one of those things that I'm going to go ahead and if you're barning hard right now, this is probably the time for you to chime in and listen and lock in here. That is one of those things that when you get to the tournament, if your bench is performing like that, you're in decent shape regardless of who you line up with. I mean, we saw that today with a couple of different teams. Princeton and Furman come to mind. By the way, I called the Furman upset. Princeton broke my bracket completely. Thank you.
My girlfriend called the Princeton upset.
That's big time. Shout out Lauren for that. But like I said, for Auburn, huge 26 points, and that's pretty. It's one of those things that you can't put a label on how valuable that is going down the stretch. You saw. I mean, we know Chris Moore's a little banged up again, and I don't know that Chris Moore's been healthy all year. And he came in, provided good defensive minutes. And when he goes down, you're like, oh boy, I don't know if it's going to get deeper than KD Johnson. And then you saw some weird rotations with Johan Traore getting a boatload of minutes today for him. You know what I mean? I think Traore ended with 9, which is still more than he's been significantly more than he's been getting. I mean, his last appearance, this is 8 more than the last time he saw the floor. And this is one of those things where you're like, oh man, this could go sour pretty quick if Auburn doesn't right the ship. And then Tre Donaldson just decided to introduce himself on the national stage. And my one grievance with Bruce Pearl in terms of rotation is Tre Donaldson not being on the floor down the stretch. He had a heat check 3-pointer that I would have been pissed off with anybody else on the team taking. I was not mad, and I was actually rooting for him to take it because at some point you got to find out. you got to discover whether or not there truly is a magnet to you from your hand going straight, a laser pointer from your hand straight into the bottom of the net. And Tre Donaldson had that tonight, man. It was one of those nights. That could be a sneaky guy in this tournament, Dylan.
Yeah, and if you look at his 3-point percentage, shot 100 on the night, and had the same amount of 3-pointers Auburn's entire starting rotation. Wendell Green shot 1 of 5, Johni Broome 1 of 1, and Jay Will got 1 of 2, and that's our 3-pointers from the starters. But 5 out of 8 came from KD Johnson and Tre Donaldson off the bench.
I don't want it to get lost in the sauce, though. I was actually going to say I thought Auburn shot the 3 ball pretty well for this team tonight.
Yes,
you shoot,
36 is perfect.
You shoot 8 of 22, and that comes out to 36 and some change, 36.4% from deep. If this team can do that, if you can keep doing that, you're going to be okay. I mean, you're going to be fine going down. You're going to be competitive, and this is, I mean, undoubtedly, this is the best. We saw the comparisons to the 2019 Kentucky game. I know you don't want to talk about the 2019 team. It was eerily similar for about 15 minutes. This game was eerily similar. If Auburn can shoot this is shooting the lights out for this team, by the way. Like, this is just not a good shooting team. And if you can shoot like this and get hot like this, I don't want to go ahead and just cast Auburn into the Sweet 16, but they're going to give a presumptive Houston some fits. Because when you game plan against Auburn, you game plan against Jalen Williams, Johni Broome, obviously. KD Johnson's now entered that conversation where you have to scheme against him. Wendell Green Jr., we know about that. You don't typically scheme for having to lock them down at the perimeter. You typically scheme to try to put them out on the perimeter. That's a very encouraging percentage for me, Dylan. Something else, Dylan, I thought Auburn shot the free throw well tonight. I thought they did fine.
Well, it helps whenever Wendell Green goes 8 for 8 and breaks the Auburn school record for most consecutive free throws made in a row, which I think he ended with, 32?
32.
Yeah, that really helps your case. But Johni Broome shot 4 of 6, which is awesome.
All 4 in clutch time, by the way.
Yeah,
all 4 big-time free throws.
Also, look at the thing. Tre Donaldson at 2. Tre Donaldson shot 5 of 5 on all his shots tonight. So
my man doesn't miss.
He just don't miss.
I'm telling you, that's why I didn't have a problem with that heat check kind of deeper 3 or that corner 3 where you usually think you just take that open lane and go to the rack. Sometimes you got to find out if there's a laser pointer attached to your fingertips. You got to know. And he had it tonight. And you can't expect that every night. Let's not go off the chain here and get irrational and say that can't happen. And Dylan's looking at me weird because I got excited after the game. I was pumped up for this. I was happy for these guys and for Bruce, man. This is the most complete game, like most complete this team has looked.
Oh, for sure.
In a very long time. I mean, this team would have beat that team that beat Kentucky in a metaphorical, hypothetical matchup. You know what I mean? That Auburn team that beat, not Kentucky, Tennessee, my apologies. But that Auburn team that beat Tennessee, if they were to go toe-to-toe in a hypothetical matchup with this team that played tonight, this team wins by 10-15. And Iowa stormed back because they're good at shooting the ball. I mean, they have great shooters. They got good guard play. I thought they played above their ceiling to the defense tonight, and Auburn still picked them apart.
It just seems like every opponent is Auburn is everyone's Super Bowl is what it seems like, because everyone wants to step up when they play Auburn. It's blue blood problems. But my one gripe with the night is the fact that Iowa was not shooting the ball well. They were not shooting the 3 very well until something in the defense happened where Iowa shooters got left open. You'd see Wendell Green's guy would go flying over to the left wing wide open. Wendell Green got caught up in the mess in the middle. It happened with Johni Broome a couple times, happened with Allen Flanagan. No one is getting, I'm not singling out anybody because it happened to literally everyone on that defense. That's my one gripe.
Zeb Jasper.
Yeah.
Single him out in a good way. Zeb Jasper played incredibly good defense tonight.
Yes, he did.
Per usual, but really good defense tonight.
Only had 2 fouls, which is wild considering the kind of defense that he plays.
I also want to shout out Jacob Goins real quick because he came on our show on yesterday, or I guess today as this show's coming out, and said Zeb Jasper often struggles to record a stat, which 100% correct, 1,000% behind Goins. He's very good at his job. He's absolutely right. First Tiger to score tonight was Zeb Jasper. It's like, of course it was. Of course it was. I'm sure Goins, I started to text him, but I think he was at the game. I'm sure Goins was going, well, I'm glad I said that on the show today. I'm going to build off your defensive grievance and your gripe. I'm going to do a pro and a con here, or I guess a compliment and an insult, or critical, analysis rather.
Mhm.
I liked the switch man zone. I liked it. The switch man off defensive set where you're playing a little hybrid man zone matchup, and you're making sure that you're not getting mismatched until you are. It didn't look like Auburn was great at communicating on that front, which is really where Iowa began to storm back. Jim, a lot of people are going to give Jim a lot of crap for his the commentary and being so critical. I thought he brought up a great point. Iowa got back in that game because Auburn agreed to play Iowa's brand of basketball.
Oh,
Why?
yeah.
That's beyond. They kind of shifted back into that man set on defense against a team. You really just can't run a complete a traditional man set. You have to play that switch man that I thought Auburn played well about half the time and poorly about the other half of the time. But that being said, you're not going to see a ton of offenses more explosive than that. You will see them if you keep dancing in this tournament that are equally as explosive. But I thought Auburn played well enough that you can go back and watch film between now and Saturday and fix that.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see a little more zone coming down the stretch. I mean, just when you've got shooters like that, I don't have problems with you grouping up and running that 2-3. I had no problems running that 1-3-1. No one bothered to talk about that. That happened 5 times this game. But I would be, I guess your thoughts here. There's time, right? You can go back and watch film and say, all right, here's what we're doing wrong. Here's how we fix it. I think that's one of those things you can fix in a short turnaround.
Yes, I'm looking at Houston because they're the presumptive, even though they're only up by 1 point right now with 13:45 left in the first half. I'm looking at their stat sheet from this past season. Everyone with 30 or 15 plus minutes. 5 out of the 7 players shoot over 32% from the 3-point line.
Sure.
And I'm looking at that compared to Iowa. Iowa's players, they play that brand of basketball where they will live and die by the 3 if you let them. I think Houston's also kind of like that. If this zone does not get fixed in the 3-day period, you can't let Houston control how you play defense.
Sure.
And especially with them being a 1 seed, they're a 1 seed for a reason.
And you're not going to have the height advantage on Houston or a presumptive Houston. Like I said, I don't want to pencil them in and this come out and and it already be written in Sharpie because something could happen. Upsets happen. This is March. We've seen it happen today. But in that scenario, I'm with you. I think you still need to be able to run that switch man and make sure you run it a little more effectively because you're kind of setting picks on your own guys if you're not careful.
Yeah.
If you're not vocal. I was overall, I mean, this game, I'll be overly optimistic here, Dylan. This game was huge on a number of reasons for Auburn. One, no one's going to argue about your season being a failure now. If you get bounced in the second round, everyone's in a lot of people's mind tonight. This team's already overachieved. Personally, I don't want to sound like I'm barning too hard or I'm sunshine pumping too much. I think it's the best this team's looked this year. And I don't necessarily know that's an overreaction. I thought this is the most complete this team looked. Bruce Pearl used momentum killing timeouts. That's huge. The end of the game after the final timeout was called, which was kind of forced because Wendell Green was getting trapped, but whatever, so be it. Auburn came out of that with a clear defensive scheme and a clear understanding of milk the clock on offense. I don't have a problem with Auburn getting up by 8 or 9 with 4 minutes left and running the Buzz Williams offense. I have no problem. Milk the clock. It's like running the football on between the hedges, between the hashes. Doesn't matter. I thought that this game was maybe one of the best that Bruce has coached this year. Thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree. Whenever Iowa would go on a little run, Bruce called timeout. I mean, Auburn has struggled to stop momentum swings in this season especially, just because Auburn found a way tonight to get flustered a little bit because they let Iowa run how their defense goes for 4 minutes of the game, which we've seen this Auburn team get flustered in the past. And I was able to see Bruce Pearl get this team calm down, get them right playing the correct way that they were, supposed to be playing tonight, and that's why they won, and fixed it. We haven't seen that a lot this season. When Auburn usually gets flustered, nothing really changes it. You still get those
the spiral.
Yeah, you still get a rushed 3-pointer. You still get those errant passes. You still get those turnovers, those stupid fouls. But when Auburn started messing up, timeout was called. BP got him in a huddle, got him straightened out. They slowed it down. Wendell Green started facilitating the ball. And the defense got right. It got stepped back up. It did not let ESPN is killing me with these ads. Oh my Lord. Getting jump scared every time. Bruce Pearl got this team playing the correct brand of basketball they wanted to come into this game playing. And huge shout out to them because Auburn's going to the next round.
It paired nicely too, and I know we talked a little bit about KD. KD was huge tonight, and like we said earlier, I don't want to say this is a Dylan Larck told you so moment, but we're in the danger zone for you listeners with being in the Dylan Larck told you so moment. This isn't personal attack toward me. Dylan and I talk about KD off air all the time, and on air, but like we talk about KD all the time and about what we think he can be. We've been critical, like Goen said that ESPN 1067's on the line's been critical. Everyone has been, and it's been justified. But coming down the stretch, KD Johnson's been a different mentality. He's still got the same tenacity. I'm going to be crazy. I'm going to shit talk you, and all that's actually fine. You kind of take it with what KD can do. I thought this was the most composed KD Johnson has been. I know he didn't get back on a couple possessions. I get it. That's frustrating. And BP auto ride, don't lay into him for that. 100% behind you. But when I started going on runs, you saw KD Johnson handling the ball, putting his hand out, even when Wendell Green was on the floor, telling everybody, slow the hell down. Let's get this set and let's run our offense. That is something I don't know if we've ever seen from KD Johnson. And it wasn't one of those, put your hand out so I can shoot the ball or I can take it to the rack. It was one of those, everyone gets set. I'm going to dish to Wendell or I'm going to dish to one of our bigs, and we're going to run our offense and play our game. I'm not sure there's a player more locked in than KD Johnson right now.
Oh, no, there's not. I've been a big supporter of KD Johnson since the start of this run he's done. I've always called him, he's probably the most important player on the team right now because whenever Wendell Green's not on the court, KD Johnson is the vocal leader. And I think he is, even if he's not on the court. And when you see a player jump over a man, lay on flat down on his back, fall on a hardwood floor, get right back up and start playing like it didn't happen, that's the kind of basketball player that gets people going. I like to play like KD Johnson whenever I'm playing pickup. I'm not nearly as good as KD Johnson, but I mean,
you have similar styles.
Yeah, if I fall on the floor, there's not a good chance I'm getting right back up. But with KD Johnson, his ability to get this team playing like him, when Johni Broome starts trash talking a little bit, when this team gets a little cockiness in them, things start going their way a little bit. They start playing a little bit more. What's the word? They start playing a little braver. Let's go with that. Jalen Williams starts opening up a little bit more.
A little more bold.
Bold. That's how I would describe this team. If you can get everyone playing with KD Johnson's level of play, oh boy.
The good parts of KD Johnson. You take the good with the bad. Lately, there's been more good than bad, and I think it's just an important talking point that I wanted to bring up, Dylan, because we said it going into this. If Auburn winds up making a deep run, I mean, Johni Broome's going to be huge. He was monstrous tonight, and I don't want anyone to think that my player of the game is anyone but Johni Broome, because it is. It is Johni Broome.
He's the cover photo on the graphic we posted.
Far and away, and he is tonight's player of the game. But if Auburn winds up making a run, do not be surprised if it's in large because of some ridiculous, unbelievable stuff that KD does. And I'm not even necessarily talking about circus shots. I'm talking about heads-up plays, defensive tenacity, and being a vocal leader on this team that, quite frankly, there's been a stigma around KD Johnson that he's not good in the postseason. And he's sick and tired of it. He doesn't have to tell us that in the media. He has, but he doesn't have to tell us that for you to see on the court. Dude is tired of people saying he can't play in the postseason because there's not a person in that gym or watching at home that doesn't think he can. It's just one of those stigmas, right? It's one of those. Oh, that's a guy that never gets a ring. Chris Paul's been living with it for years. You know what I mean? I'm not comparing KD Johnson to Chris Paul. That's wild, but it's the same concept, right? Where, he's getting carried. His greatness is only as great as the players around him. But KD Johnson's not the best player on the floor. That's plain and simple. He's not the most talented player on the floor, but he's got a chip on his shoulder and he's playing like it right now, and he's using it to his advantage. He's also a guy you got to watch out because he could use it to his disadvantage.
Yeah, if KD Johnson starts off a game bad, he might. It's not good, but from what we've seen of KD Johnson and his level of play style we've seen as of late, and with he has been shat on by so many other fan bases, by media, because they don't like how he plays. They don't like how inconsistent he has looked in the past. He has definitely been listening.
Yeah.
And I could tell you one thing about KD Johnson. if you knock him down, if you get in his face, if you make a shot in his face, if he makes a shot in your face, you're going to see a look from him in his eyes. He's going to look right at you, wide-eyed, open his mouth, stick his tongue out, and then he's going to put up 15. That's just how that happens. It happens every time. Every time I see Katie Johnson fall on the ground, when I saw him flip over a man tonight, I was like, that's a double-digit man right there. He's about to hit double-digit points. It's just something about him. It's like an ignition switch. He gets knocked down, he gets right back up again, and he plays with 150% aggression at all moments in time.
He becomes Killer KD.
Yeah.
Literally. You summed it up perfectly.
Our little psychopath.
Yeah, Auburn's little psychopath. That's right. Love to see it. Dylan, thanks so much for hopping on after the game. Like we said, this was a fun one to watch, and it's been a great day of college basketball. We're not going to touch too much on it, but man, if you had Princeton over over Arizona, props to you. You were preying on my downfall and one of my bracket busted, and you succeeded. For those of you other big brains like myself who took Furman over UVA, I almost blanked there and almost said over Furman again. I don't know how that's even possible. But took Furman over UVA. Congrats, homies. It was always the Paladins. Believe in Furman. At this point now, my bracket's so busted. If they make the Sweet 16, I'm just riding for the Paladins. But a lot of fun stuff going on in March Madness. Let us know if in the comments, since this is a YouTube only section. Got 2 questions for you today. Number one, if it's not Johni Broome, if you couldn't select Johni Broome, who's your MVP of the game today for Auburn? Number 2, who's your Cinderella story for March Madness? If it's Auburn, that's fine. But if you've got a Cinderella story, if you think Princeton can be dancing next weekend, next Sunday, then we want to hear about it. Let's talk. For those of you who are balling out in the March Madness group, it's wacky, wild points are flying off the board and wound up being 89 of you guys. And we want to tell y'all how much we appreciate you guys. We're stoked to be able to give away 4 tickets, 8A, and a really, really sweet Auburn hat that you guys are going to love. I'm Harrison Tarr, at Harrison Tarr on Twitter. You can find all my written work at the Auburn Daily, theauburndaily.com. You can listen to more of my podcasting work every Wednesday and Thursday on the Auburn Daily Show. If you're listening to the YouTube, we're always on the YouTube stream. So let me just go ahead and try that again. Since this is YouTube exclusive, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you can stay up to date on all the cool stuff we've got going on here at the College Loop. Dylan, it's always a pleasure to talk ball with you. I'll let you get us out of here just like we always do.
Yeah, and just for the March Madness bracket, huge shout out to Peyton Kyle, Sabres, Main Brack, Sam Dill, Migo.
Sam Dill's up there?
He got 9 points. He also picked Bama to win. Ethan_H, Kevbot, and War Eagle G7, a lot of other numbers for getting 9 points and are currently tied for the lead in the College Loop March Madness with 9 points amongst all of you geniuses.
Dylan, Ethan H is Ethan Hemker. That's crazy.
But yeah,
that's awesome.
Catch me on the Auburn Daily Show every Monday and Wednesday. Monday with Lance Stahl and Wednesday with Harrison Tarr. Also follow the College Loop literally everywhere. If you want like the podcast version, go to Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and social medias. You can find us on YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. But sadly, we do not have MySpace yet.
Also, that's at your boy the Tank on Twitter, since he forgot to tell you.
At your boy the Tank on Twitter. I forgot my thing. At YABOI the Tank. And with all that being said, this is the College Loop post-game review.